Hi, thanks for being here. You'll see from my title that apparently I'm supposed to be speaking on exporting to the USA and Australia. I have a confession to make. We don't export. What we do is we sell to people all over the world. So what I'm going to tell you about today is how Dragon Mobility, which is far too small to to actually export and sell in every individual country of the world, can sell worldwide, and we never have to turn a customer away. I'm going to start, I've got a blank slide here, so I can tell you a little bit about Dragon Mobility. Dragon Mobility is a small team, we're 12 guys. We're a family business, we're based in Cambridge in the UK, and we've got over 30 years experience of providing mobility for individuals on a bespoke basis. So our complete product is more than just the machine. The machine I am modeling here, which is bespoke for each individual, that's the physical product that people can see. The product as a whole, in our case, is considerably greater than that. So we are unique to each client's needs, which means that we have to get to know our clients really well. We have to talk to them, we have to find out what they need. We measure them, obviously, to make the right seating, but we want to talk about their lifestyle, and we want to get on board with who they are and what they want to do. So obviously, from that perspective, we're very hands-on, and our product is also a service. We also have an ongoing relationship. Delivering the power chair isn't the end of our work. Our work is ongoing because for a disabled person with a power chair, their needs change, and so we have to be there to make sure that the products and services that we've provided continue to work. So we provide a 5-year support for each machine that we provide. So again, we're very on board. We know birthdays, we know important events. We occasionally get invited to the odd wedding. Some very odd weddings. So that's our product. And you can imagine that when you come to exporting that, that can be something of a challenge. Our market. So if we're going to be exporting, we're looking to find people like the people we are selling to in the UK all over the world. Well, who are these people? They have a mobility impairment, yes, and they also have a completely integrated lifestyle. So they're hiding. They are dotted all over the world, and they do not congregate with other disabled people, which makes them really tricky to find. They're under 75 kilos. Well, fortunately, the average body weight of the global population is 60 kilos. I learned that this weekend. Now, we estimate that 1 in 355 children in the UK could use what we need. Now, that's assuming, that's taking into account the medical services we have in the UK. We've got the NHS. We're a very integrated society. There are 1.8 billion children in the world. Now, even if you estimate down and assume that there are fewer than 1 in 355 in the UK, we still estimate that there could be 1 million children worldwide who would use and benefit from our power chairs. But as I've said, they're dispersed all over the world. They are, there is one. It's one in every primary school for the children. They don't go in. In most places where we're looking to sell, they're not going into specialist schools. They're integrated, and that's what we do. And I'm talking about children here. Of course, we also serve adults. And so it's almost impossible to estimate how many adults there are in addition to that 1 million children. Yep. So, if you're in the US and you want a Snapdragon or a Dragon power chair, how do you get it when most of what it is a relationship with us in the UK? The challenge you can see here, accuracy. We pride ourselves on seating fitting. Seats must fit the person. An inch or two difference for some of our clients will make it impossible for them to use the power chair. So we've got to get it right. Standards of advice. If we don't understand the person's needs, we're going to give bad advice. So we need to be able to communicate with people wherever they are to understand what they're looking for, understand their situation, and give the right advice, and not give the wrong advice, because we are seen as experts in lots of areas. Prompt service. In the UK, a director of Dragon Mobility is informed if a power chair is off the road because it needs repair for more than 48 hours. Our standard for the rest of the world is we can't do 48 hours, but we do 72 hours. How do we achieve that? How can you serve somebody in Australia who has just broken a drive pin when you're on the other side of the world in a different time zone? Which brings me to time differences. They're on the beach when we're in bed. So we have to be able to serve them round the clock. Travel and shipping costs. Bringing people here is necessary. Bringing two people into the same room is necessary. Either we must be with them or they must be with us. Otherwise, we cannot achieve the levels of service that we've been talking about. And the continuity of the relationship. As I've said, it's an ongoing relationship. We don't send them away, lean against the door and go, whew, that's done. It's an ongoing relationship. It's a community. It's a worldwide community. How can we achieve that inclusion for every one of our clients? And then I was talking just a moment ago about the really tricky stuff, the legal stuff. Now, I have to confess, I did used to be a lawyer. So I'm going to try and do a conjuring trick today and not make you go to sleep during that bit. All right, so how do we achieve it? I've told you it's really, really difficult. But between 5 and 10% of our clients are from overseas. So we're obviously doing something. Well, what we do is we use a health tourism model. We do not sell outside the UK. What we do is we allow people to come to the UK to buy what we can provide for them. And we provide a service in the UK which is tailored to wherever you are in the world. So whether you're British but travel a lot, for instance, one of our clients had a house in California, so he was British but spent half his time in California, or whether you actually live in California, we look to be able to serve that. But people come here. People come and so they contact us. We make all the arrangements for the sale. We plan carefully, and they come here for typically 2 weeks, during which time we complete their power chair and we send them away with their power chair. I've talked about servicing. We couldn't do this without a physical product which was designed for the purpose. Our power chairs are designed for self-service. So if you can look after a bicycle, you can look after a Dragon or Snapdragon power chair. That means that whether you are up the road from us in Northampton from Cambridge, or whether you are in Brisbane, the first person on the spot is the client, and the client is always with the machine. So our clients, often it's family, it might be friends, it might be that a client is able to do a lot of the work themselves with help from local bike shop or somebody helpful there. The whole product is designed to achieve this. It's all designed so we don't have to send an engineer out, and that saves us on servicing costs when something happens in South Africa. Obviously, IT and social media is huge. The reason that we have got into this so soon, Dragon Mobility is, as I say, still quite small. We have a long history, but it's a new project, is that people kept finding us on the internet. And how do you tell somebody when they say, this is the only product in the world that my child can use, that they can't have one? So, but it's via IT and social media that we meet our clients, but also we stay in contact with them. And our Facebook community is really, really active. And it's great because you get to see people meet and make friends and solve each other's non-power chair related issues over our community. And that's lovely to see. There's a wider Dragon community than just the services they receive. And it's about giving control to the client. We have to think about being able to serve every country in the world. Anyone can call us from anywhere, and we'll look at whether we can deal with it. The only way to achieve that without an army of lawyers all around the world is to give that control back to the client so that they know their local area, their local services much better than we do, so they can seek the advice that they need as individuals to take a product which will work for them from the UK and take it into their own environment. Okay. Right. Communication is key. I don't know if I can say it clearly enough. Without communication, we couldn't do it. For instance, do we have any Americans here? No? Any Americans? All right. Okay, the example I was going to use was the word fix. In the UK, fix means attach. In the US, fix means mend. If your literature arrives in the US, written for a UK market, and it says, fix the control box to the seat, the technician who reads that says, it arrived broken. I've got to mend it. And they start off feeling bad about the product they've just received because they've been asked to, we thought, attach something, which we think is reasonable, but they've been asked to mend it before they even got it out of the box. So it's a huge difficulty. Another very obvious one, trousers or pants. Oddly, when you're taking seating measurements, much hilarity can be achieved by the confusion between trousers, which in the UK we know, and pants, which the US and Australia and New Zealand call underpants. So when you ask the question, is he wearing his pants? Well, you can imagine. The cultural variations. A lot of the advice we give, we use examples that come from everyday life. When you're talking to international clients, they don't have those same references. So it's important to know and understand their cultural references, both their historical culture, which can be sensitive, and also their popular culture. So we do it, as I've said, Skype is really important. So we do assessment over Skype, we do demonstrations over Skype. Chat, email chat is handy, particularly for people with either language barrier, if we're speaking a different language, or people with communication disabilities. So if they find it difficult to use the telephone, we can use online chat, and we can hear from the client themselves when normally they might go talk through a family member or an assistant or a carer as an intermediary. So by chat, we can get to speak to that person directly. It's an intensive time for the client in the UK. It's a huge thing for them. And they come over for 2 weeks. They book it 3 or 4 months in advance. We start building madly before they get here. We do as much as we can beforehand. And even then, they arrive on day one. And we might find that what we've understood about the client's needs is completely wrong. Or the measurements got a bit garbled in the translation. And we start again. And so in those 2 weeks, we have time to make the changes. Nothing is set in stone when they arrive. One of the other tricks we use is that we look to assess a child when they're at their worst and they're most tired. Well, jet lag is really handy for that. So we seek to see the child jet lagged, even adults actually, but we don't tell them. So we seek to see them on day 1 or even day 2, because we all know that day 2 is worse for jet lag than day 1. So it's a really intensive time. Everybody works really, really hard, the clients included. Okay. All right, now, I want you all to stay awake now while we talk about regulation. Love the ISO standards. Honestly, they're fabulous. They will get you a lot of the way through navigating the regulation. Every country adopts their own standards, which are normally based on the ISO ones. So start with ISO, and then you're covered internationally to a far greater extent. Look outwards always when you're looking at standards. The UKTI can help you. There are lots of handy things on the website. You can get advice about what the regulations are. And the other thing is, you do consider calling the lawyers earlier rather than later. I know you don't want to. I know it's scary. But lawyers much prefer to prevent the problem than resolve it. So speak to your lawyer early. It's a bit like the dentist. If you go early and get it looked after, then it won't cost you an awful lot of pain and hassle and money later. Understand the local regulations of your client. Make sure that your client understands their local regulations, because ultimately it's their responsibility, because you are not selling in their country. So your obligation is to your client far more because you're doing it this way. Consider seeking local legal advice. If you are really, really confused about the strange medical regulations of a country you've never heard of, then find a lawyer in that country, because I'll bet you they know about it. And even if they don't, they can read about it. Be ready to alter your product. If your product fits the UK, then there will be changes you need to make, whether that's for cultural reasons or because of the regulation. But be ready to alter your product. We have the advantage that because of each of our products is bespoke, everyone is unique anyway. So if it needs something special for some reason to do with the country it's going to, we can do that. be aware that there's regulation of the marketing as well as your product. Particularly in the States, marketing of medical products is heavily regulated, and you can get into a lot of trouble without ever selling anything. So be aware and understand all the regulation. Right, and I'm afraid the next slide gets worse. Taxation. Understand VAT before you start going outside this country. Value-added tax, unhelpfully in this country, our value-added tax, which is a type of tax, is called value-added tax. But value-added tax, it occurs with other names all over the world with lots of different names. So you've got GST in Australia, which is goods and services tax. You've got all manner of state and federal taxes in the US. So you need to look to the state regulation as well. But understand how VAT works. Understand that it's an indirect tax, which means that you don't pay it, your customer pays it. So I think lots of people think that VAT is must be a bit of a scam, because particularly those of us who sell zero-rated products, we get it back every month because we claim back the difference between the zero rating that we've passed out to our clients, which means that we have a windfall once a month of the VAT that we have paid. The rest of the country pays the VAT bill every month because they've charged it to their clients, and then they're paying it to the revenue. Tell the client to check for themselves. Check your import duties. There are going to be import duties because countries don't like you buying something in another country and then bringing it in and not paying their value-added tax. They get upset. So they have import duties. Check what they are. Check how they apply to medical devices. Check how they apply to disabled people. And tell the client to check for themselves. It's going to be the client's responsibility. The client is the one who's going to go through customs, and they need to know which aisle to walk through. Because if they walk through nothing to declare, in our case, with £15,000 worth of kit that they just bought in the UK, and they try to go through nothing to declare, when they have something to declare, it's going to get messy. So make sure they understand it. Okay?